Alright, so previously I was running a build with evasive fire, focus, and it was set up under the cluster arrow was the heavy hitter for the build, and this was just the regenerator. And we were using the Bombardier's rucksack for the 2 additional sentries. This was the main hand weapon I had at the time. Note the reduce our resource cost is only 10%. With this new patch here, I recently got a couple of new weapons. The one being Yang's Recurve. I was struggling in T6, T7 with my original gear that rolled over. It's nothing, nothing close to BIS. At the time I had the Ring of Royal Grandeur on in place of the Stone of Jordan. It does not have a socket. I was hurting there. I got 2 focuses. I was bouncing back and forth between the 2. This one here with the resource cost reduction just happens to be the one that I prefer. The AMI, as you can see, has no main stat. We went with some fire. Fire damage is what we were trying to stack at the time. Anyways, the idea was this is a cooldown reduction, resource cost reduction build. My gear is mediocre at best. I was able to run, speed clears on normal rifts, and in the early 30s, 31, 32 on greater rifts solo, and that was doing the double unity trick. There's the one I was wearing, and I'll show you. My follower has his unity. Nothing spectacular on the follower. The introduction of the cube here, however, has brought some interesting things now. I can drop my Ring of Royal Grandeur. I had my Roger. I had a couple of different talismans I was gonna put in here. But initially I dropped the Roger, threw on the Sojo. I understood about the trifecta and the DPS loss, but it allowed me to put the Cinder Coat on and still maintain the socket. The damage to elites is... the socket was what I was more after, and the damage to elites is just a afterthought, if you will. So there was another item, the Pride's Fall, that was, 30% resource cost reduction for no DPS taken is huge for this build. It's pretty big. I was thinking about doing the Cinder Coat like I see a lot of people do for the resource cost reduction of fire skills, but then I was looking at it, in the higher grader rifts, if I take damage, it's gonna hurt no matter what. But what this will allow me to do is maintain the glass cannon play style, keep my distance based on the ZZ. If I do get close, I get this DPS buff from the Bane of the Trapped, and then this is a 10% damage from all sources buff. I'll show you in the skills in a minute how that ties in with the way the skill setup was. But the 30% resource cost reduction now allowed me, with the Cinder Coat and with stacking resource cost reduction on my guy. Where is is it up here? Damage to elites, cooldown fire. Cooldown is at 23%. That's nothing spectacular. Resource cost reduction. Almost 70%. Getting close. 68%. Not too bad. And then with the Bombardier's rucksack, it opened up the offhand. Now that changes is obviously the multi-shot. I don't care about. Although for a build I was just watching a gentleman, because I had just looked up YouTube builds. Let me look at it. It was done by a gentleman named, his YouTube channel is WUDIJO, and it's Demon Hunter builds for Torment 6 through 10 is what I think. Maybe that was the wrong one. No, JHow Gaming. JHow Gaming for Demon Hunter Best Builds Patch 2.3, I believe was the build I was just looking at, where he's running a multi-shot build, and so I can see where this Yang's recurve. Anyways, he goes over, his build was pretty spot on, but for just coming out, being a very casual player, I figured I would show you guys. I went from 2 mil DPS to 1.6 on paper, which doesn't really mean much anymore. My toughness stayed generally the same, my health pool stayed generally the same, but because of that, I'm able to drop Focus Fire for Marked Death, Contagion. I'm able to keep everything else as is, Tumble. I could go with the Fire Rune, I just don't. It's whatever, it's personal preference. I want to say, in theory, if you are tumbling around your enemy, yeah, the fire is going to do a little more DPS buff. I like to tumble like a dummy, so that's the rune I chose. Or I like to vault like a dummy, so tumble was the rune I chose. Listen to what I mean, not what I say. The skills, the steady aim is what pairs up with that gem. This is relatively the exact same build everybody's probably used to seeing. And in T10, I went from struggling in T6 to doing T10. Where's something with some good density? So it's not bad to just keep some simple things of the build intact and just get off the generator entirely. You see my DPS, so go back to the details. I'm sitting on 50% crit chance, 474, which isn't real high. I'm missing 6 and 50 from the ring here. The gloves are doing alright, they're close. Resource cost reduction, main stat vitality, cooldown was important for being able to drop my sentries relatively fast. And like I said, not really best in slot gears, you know, I'm trying to get the restraint for the focus and restraint, and then I need to get an offhand. Clustering arrow damage would be nice in place of vitality, possibly on, you know, just some more optimization and all overall, because cluster arrow is the ability you use primarily for point being. So to transition right out of the gate, struggling with 2 mil DPS on paper prior with my Roger and the other glass cannon.
There is strength within me yet.
Darkness awaits you!
There, a worthy foe. They should have run when they had the chance.
And so the Stone of Jordan, that's got, I'm trying to roll vitality to I want to say cluster arrow, but I left it on vitality at the moment. Either way, the Stone of Jordan, I thought about swapping out the Gem of Infectious for the Bane of Powerful. I just haven't really optimized this, or there's also probably better builds out there now. That's not what I want to do.
I am losing strength!
That would not be wise. Not enough hatred. I'm still waiting.
Vengeance!
My hatred is too low.
You won't survive that!
I need more hatred to do that.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Just alternate between those two. That's your get out of. Oops-a-daisy, I got too close. Keep pushing those forward. Obviously, I'm not pushing like for speed where you would continually, you wouldn't kite back as much as you kite forward, blah blah blah. But just that simple use for the cube, those 3 items, opens up a lot of possibilities. I want to say that Pride's Fall is probably the biggest clutch piece out of all of it for the resource cost reduction. If you can maintain that distance. Put the Ring of Royal Grandeur, the Bombardier's Rucksack, and the Pride's Fall in here, and then that frees up your offhand. You can roll 2 one-handers if you wanted to. There's the options open up big. The set can be tinkered around with now as far as pieces go. If you were running a different, like, what is it? What's the pants? The, not Hexing Pants and Mr. Yans. These guys here. And then you run your... No, those aren't it. There's a pair of pants out. Maybe it was those. I'm not too sure. Either way, my brother and I were talking about it, but it frees up gear pieces is the overall idea. It frees up your gear because now you can run the focus and restraint and then do something different like I'm doing here instead of the cinder coat for the because I'd rather have the cinder coat specifically because of the fire skill damage it gives you. the 20% more damage to fire is real nice to have in that slot to get your overall fire damage up here. Because it's a combination of all of that, I believe, is what makes this, you know, BS paper damage bananas and strong enough to pull you through, you know, Torment 10.